With that, we will defer to you for House File 3709.
Excuse me. Thank you, Chair O'Driscoll. House File 3709 is about ensuring that Minnesota-based financial institutions are, I think we, yeah,
I'm a little early.
yes, you're a little early.
We do like punctuality, though.
I'm confused right now. Let's continue. House File 3709 is about ensuring that Minnesota-based financial institutions are allowed to evolve alongside their customers and members, rather than forcing Minnesotans to rely on unregulated, out-of-state, or offshore providers for services that are already in use today. The legislation before allows banks and credit unions to offer custodial accounts for digital assets, basically a safe deposit box for digital assets like cryptocurrencies. In my district, as probably in many of yours, banks and credit unions play a critical role for our constituents. They are trusted, relationship-based institutions that know their customers personally. As digital assets and virtual currencies become more mainstream, consumers are already asking familiar questions. Can my local financial institution help me safeguard these assets? Can I work with someone I trust? Can I do this under Minnesota law and oversight? HF 3709 answers those questions responsibly. This bill does not push financial institutions, well, Representative Elkins.
No, this is still yours.
This bill does not push financial institutions in speculative activity. Instead, it allows them, if they choose, to provide custody and safekeeping services under rigorous financial security and integrity standards overseen by federal and state regulators. In short, the standards regarding cryptocurrency are the same as for other types of assets safeguarded by credit unions. Institutions must maintain written policies addressing risk management, cybersecurity, internal controls, and business continuity, and they must notify the Department of Commerce before offering these services.
So that framework matters to
Representative
Minnesotans.
Elkins?
Yeah, thank you.
Go ahead.
It ensures innovation happens here under Minnesota's regulatory supervision rather than outside it. House File 3709 also helps level the playing field. Without this authority, large national or non-bank entities will dominate this space, while local institutions, despite being more trusted by consumers, are sidelined. The bill ensures that Minnesota consumers can continue to rely on the same local institutions they already trust for mortgages, small business lending, and financial guidance. At its core, 3709 is about choice, consumer protection, and competitiveness. It allows Minnesota financial institutions to respond to changing customer expectations while preserving safety, transparency, accountability Minnesotans expect. For communities like the ones I represent and for many Minnesotans who want innovation without sacrificing trust, this bill strikes the right balance. So I respectfully ask for your support for House File 3709.
Representative Elkins, thank you. We do have a couple of testifiers on the bill, and the first one will be Sam Smith, Government Affairs Director for the Minnesota Department of Commerce. Mr. Smith, if you make your way to the testifying table, please. Good morning, sir, and welcome. If you'll state your name for the record and proceed with your testimony.
Co-chairs O'Driscoll and Cagle, members of the committee, my name is Sam Smith, and I'm here to testify briefly on House File 3709 on behalf of the Department of Commerce. The department appreciates that many Minnesotans value virtual currencies, and we support efforts to incorporate virtual currency into our regulatory framework where appropriate. House File 3709 levels the playing field and allows Minnesotans to safely keep their virtual currencies with a trusted community partner like a credit union or bank. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. And we will, any questions of Mr. Smith from the committee? Seeing none, hearing none, we have two individuals. Oh, I'm sorry, Representative Cagle.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And Mr. Smith, how, excuse me, how will how would these assets interact with lost property?
Mr. Smith.
Chair O'Driscoll, Chair Cagle, unfortunately, our unclaimed property statute is currently silent on virtual currencies. We do have legislation that we are in the process of introducing that would incorporate unclaimed property into our statute for that very reason, because we know it is a valued asset that many people hold, and it is a priority of the department to have a statutory regime to accept that virtual currency and hold it for the rightful owner.
Representative Cagle, follow-up? With Mr. Smith, it's slightly off topic, but since it was brought up in a kind of a sidecar way, will we be seeing a department bill anytime soon from your agency that may include the virtual currency stuff you just talked about? Mr.
Chair
Smith?
Driscoll, yes, I'm hopeful that the bill jackets will be arriving imminently, but we have shared our draft language widely with many community partners, continue to have conversations about the legislation, and hope to work on it this session.
Very good. Thank you. With that, our next testifier is Ryan Smith from the Minnesota Credit Union Network, and he is joining us this morning via Zoom. Mr. Smith, are you there?
I am indeed, Mr. Chair. Thank you very much.
If you'll introduce yourself for the record and proceed with your testimony.
Happy to. Thank you, Mr. Chair. My name is Ryan Smith. I'm here on testifying virtually on behalf of the Minnesota Credit Union Network. And I'm going to keep my comments brief, not least of which because my voice is basically shot. But I do want to just thank Representative Perryman, Representative Elkins for all their work. I also want to thank the Department of Commerce for input on the bill. We have worked with them very closely on the language throughout the process. We really feel that this bill strikes the right balance of making sure that local financial institutions have the option to hold these digital assets in custodial accounts and help local banks and credit unions maintain relevancy in a really changing marketplace. So with that, Mr. Chair, I don't have a lot of comments other than to say that we think the bill is a really good one. We worked closely with the departments. We worked with our colleagues over in the banks. And we think that this is a responsible step forward for Minnesota consumers. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. We do have one question from Chair Cagle, I believe.
Thank
Chair
you,
Cagle.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Smith, I was just curious if these crypto deposits would be NCUA backed at all?
Mr. Smith?
Chair O'Driscoll and Chair
Yes.
Cagle, thank you for the question. No, they wouldn't be. They're just held in custodial accounts. I think the easiest way to describe these would, basically, you would consider these like as a safety deposit box for digital assets. So, and like safety deposit box, any items in a safety deposit box, they are not insured by the NCUA.
Thank you.
Representative Cagle, follow-up? Okay. Mr. Smith, we'll ask you to stand by in case there are other questions as we move along. And we have Mr. Smith from the Department of Commerce, Mr. Smith from the credit unions. And to prove that you don't have to be Smith to testify, the next person will be Chase Larson. And he will also be joining us via Zoom. And he, I believe, is with the St. Cloud Financial Credit Union. And with that, Mr. Larson, are you there?
Good morning, Chair. I am.
Mr. Larson, if you would go ahead and state your name for the record and then proceed with your testimony. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Chair. My name is Chase Larson. I'm with St. Cloud Financial Credit Union, where I'm the Executive Vice President and Chief Lending Officer. I've had the pleasure over the last 4.5 years to lead our credit union's digital asset strategy. And I think, just to echo what's already been said, the bill in front of you today is not about cryptocurrency hype. It's about consumer protection and ensuring that our local financial institutions and local credit unions remain relevant. We've started, in 2023, we started measuring the deposit outflows to exchanges that are not in our state. In 2023, it was $1 million in liquidity. In 2024, it was approximately 5.2 million. And last year, it was over $15 million of liquidity leaving our local community. And so I think this is about relevancy. It's about ensuring that that liquidity has a path back into our local economy and ultimately about consumer protection.
All right, thank you, Mr. Larson. Any questions for Mr. Larson this morning from members? Seeing none?
Chair,
Mr.
I'm
Larson,
sorry.
go ahead.
Chair, can I just add one more comment?
Sure.
To Chair Kegel's question, as Mr. Smith stated, these are not NCUA insured. However, there are a lot of institutions that are getting private insurance through companies such as Lloyd's of London, not dollar for dollar, but more for protection against loss of keys, hack, et cetera.
All right. Representative Smith, I do see a pattern, though, developing here this morning.
Thank you, Chair. There's been so much from my extended family that I thought I should say something. The last testifier did touch on a question I have about this bill, and I've talked to the credit unions about this. So the last testifier mentioned liquidity going out into exchanges, which I understand something of a concern. However, from other testifiers, I've heard this described as a digital lockbox, and my understanding of lockboxes is they're not generally part of bank liquidity. The assets in there are shut off from the bank, except maybe, I guess, fees help with cash flow. So I guess those two reasons don't connect to me of why this would be necessary. Now, that's a maybe general question, maybe not for the witness, maybe one of the bill authors, but I can restate that if that's not clear, but I'm somewhat confused about those two things being connected in this bill.
Representative Smith, I think we'll have you restate the question. We'll go to Mr. Larson because I had the opportunity to visit with them as well.
Okay.
And they were talking about two issues, but I'll let Mr. Larson talk about those, and I think that might help for clarification.
Okay.
So if you'll just restate the question.
Sure. This bill doesn't seem to help credit union liquidity at all because it creates a digital lockbox where people can keep their cryptocurrency, but that cryptocurrency is not going to be part of the actual assets of the bank, as far as I understand. Lockboxes generally working. So I'm hoping that someone can connect those, the need for it in the sense of needing our credit unions to continue to have liquidity, while also the actual assets that are in these accounts will not be part of the bank's credit profile.
Sure. Mr. Larson, did you understand the question?
I did.
Then we'll go ahead and give you a shot at answering Representative Smith's question. Proceed.
Thank you, Chair. Representative Smith, today I see this as relevancy and consumer protection. I think the thought over time is that we will see an ever-changing landscape. And so I think today it's about staking the claim of relevancy with our members and keeping up with these competing exchanges. If you look at the cryptocurrency exchanges across our country, they're filing for bank charters. We now have Walmart that's settling in Bitcoin, and we have Visa and MasterCard connecting with these digital asset or cryptocurrency exchanges. And so I think it may not represent liquidity on the balance sheet today, but it does represent relevancy and consumer protection in our state.
Representative Smith.
Yeah, that's a helpful question. Thank you for clarifying. I asked because one of the concerns I have is with the volatility of cryptocurrency, that if credit unions are turning into exchanges, which I have a problem with, as the testifier mentioned, some of these national exchanges becoming bank services. I do think that's a problem. I just don't think we should have our credit unions acting as exchanges, which this bill does not do, I want to clarify, but that's why my question was focused in on that. So I'll be voting yes on this bill. I think it's fine for people to keep their digital private keys at a credit union and to keep relevancy, but I think we have to be careful of even what was mentioned there of potential, I don't know what you call it, leakage into potential exchange services, which I think in the volatility of that market would put some of our small credit unions at risk.
Thank you, Representative Smith. As we know from previous bills we've had, that cryptocurrency and ATM-style machines and things are in the focus of this committee. And again, without belaboring the point, but with Mrs. Guthrie's disappearance, and that's kind of off the front page of the news, but that was a give us money through a crypto wallet and the like. So this is stuff that not only do we as state regulators need to get on top of, but it's going to have some national and federal oversight as well. And we can only do what we can do here in Minnesota. So with that, any other member questions? Representative Finke.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, bill authors. I also am trying to get my mind around some of these issues. Well, in our previous conversation that we had about the ATMs and the systems, there was some remarks about them making crypto available to the unbanked, right? And it is my understanding that crypto is part of crypto's appeal is that it is not in the traditional banking system. And that comment, it's been roiling around in my head about how we're like allowing unbanked people to interact with the crypto exchange. And when I think about this, I was thinking about the lockbox, safety deposit box metaphor, right? Because the safety deposit box doesn't help me avoid being scammed. It's just a place where I put something. If I buy something that I believe is valuable and I put it in a safety deposit box and it has no value anymore, it's just sitting there, right? And nobody's going to help protect me from having been scammed in the first place. And so I guess I'm just concerned by these conversations that we're having, how they're all going to intersect. The previous testifier in response to Representative Smith's question said, it sounds like this is just as much about keeping credit unions relevant as it is about helping consumers. And like, I don't know that keeping banks relevant is really like the objective we should be pursuing. We should be pursuing helping people manage and not be scammed by crypto, right? So I don't really have a specific question. I'm interested to see what the agency brings. I think that there is just like multiple things going on here. And if at the end of the day, we're saying, put your lockbox here because banks want more business, because they're losing relevancy, that's not necessarily something that I'm comfortable moving as a policy goal. People should use the bank, right? Credit unions are great. I've used credit union forever, but it's like, is that our objective? Like the relevancy of the banking industry? I don't know. There's just many things kind of being pulled at here. And we're doing policy in an area that's brand new, and I don't want to chase them in a way that's going to make us not helping actual people, but like helping the banking industry.
And Representative Finke, as I mentioned to Representative Smith, I had the opportunity to meet with Mr. Larson and some other folks in the St. Cloud Financial Credit Union. And they had talked about customers coming in asking, do you have a crypto option? So when we're talking about being relevant, I think they're losing deposits to other organizations and other places that have this. And they want to be able to have the digital keys to be able to keep those assets and to protect people. As a matter of fact, the CEO of the organization told me at one time he got a call on a Sunday morning from a customer who was being scammed. And because they had that closer connection with the consumer, they were actually able to thwart a fraudulent situation of someone going after crypto. And so that was where this bill came from, was to try to provide that extra layer of protection for people who are already using those. And if they don't have that level of comfort and security, those deposits are going to go somewhere else in a crypto form. And I think that's what he means by relevant. We could certainly ask him if I'm hot, cold, or way off base on this. And I think I will do that. Mr. Larson, did I explain that close to correctly?
Chair, you're spot on. We've surveyed our members over the last several years. We're a 28,000 member financial cooperative. We're member owned, not-for-profit, and 20% on average, 20% of our members own digital assets. And with these exchanges, there's nobody to call. There's no chase to go in to see on a Tuesday when you have questions. And so when I say relevant, it's about serving our members and member protection.
Representative Finke.
Thank you, Chair, and to the testifier. So I think that's very helpful to me, right? Because these aren't lock boxes, right? Like this is an opportunity to have people in the financial institution help you through the process of engaging with crypto, right? That to me is just a different. Like if I might be getting scammed and I call my bank, my lockbox isn't going to help me, right? Like these are financial institutions supporting customers through this process, through this. I mean, I admit I'm asking these questions as a person who has no interest in crypto and doesn't think it's a good thing for the future of our world. So I'm trying to make sure that people understand, like, are they going to get the help that they need? Are they going to be able to access real support? Or are they just putting something in another box that may or may not have value when they come back and look at it?
Great question. I think this is step one in trying to provide that level of protection. And as Mr. Smith from the Commerce Department had mentioned, and as we've been working on as a committee, sometimes the scamsters, well, no, not sometimes, the scamsters move faster than the regulators can to stop this and get in front of them. And so this is a step, I believe, to try to get to that end game. Thank you, Representative Finke. Representative Elkins.
Yeah, I would say, I like Representative Finke, I have absolutely no interest in speculating in cryptocurrency. But if I did, I think my credit union is a place where I would want to stash it. If anything happened to me, they would have all of the account information. I think so much cryptocurrency is just orphaned out in the ether because somebody lost their account keys or they died without passing it on, their account keys on to their heirs. So I agree, this is a very marginal step in the right direction, but it's helpful.
Very good. Representative Allen.
Excuse me. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I, for one, am really glad you came forward with this Bill 3709, kind of a digital safety deposit box. I had an uncle that worked within the banking industry for had a 50-plus year career in that, going all the way back to the PCA days. And it was interesting to hear him talk about stories about when they had to open up safety deposit boxes and whatnot and help people go through that. And the amount of paper paper stocks that they would find, and people bought stock in certain companies and whatnot. Some of them are worth something. Some of those stocks never materialized to anything. The idea that the bank was a great holding location to be able to protect that particular asset for those individuals that decided to take their assets and diversify them among whatever it may be. And now for us nowadays, people are deciding to diversify among within cryptocurrency. This is just basically I look at this nothing more than a digital safety deposit box that banks are allowed to be able to give their customers as another resource to be able to protect or give them some semblance of protection over whatever they decide to buy when it comes to Bitcoin or whatever it may particularly be. It may be. So thank you for bringing this forward. I think it does serve an exceptionally good purpose, and I think having that face-to-face interaction that banks have when people are doing their regular business, I think is just another safety check that we have in the system in order to be able to make sure people are not getting scammed in the process. So thank you, Mr. Chair.
All right. Representative Bach.
Padami, thank you. Okay, forgive my ignorance. This is a whole new world to me, the crypto. How is and you may have already answered this, and again, my apologies if you have. How are the customers protected more using a kiosk or something at a bank than they are at a actual stand-up kiosk somewhere else?
Great question, Representative Buck, and I think Mr. Larson is probably the best one to answer that question, because I don't think it involves a kiosk like we were talking earlier, but I'm going to let Mr. Larson enlighten the committee on that. Mr. Larson.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Today, when you purchase, we'll just say Bitcoin or any cryptocurrency, but for the sake of conversation, I'm going to say Bitcoin. When you buy Bitcoin on Coinbase or any exchange, the issue is consumers are not reading the fine print. If they did, they would understand that they have an IOU from the exchange. They don't actually own the asset because they don't hold the underlying key. When they transfer it into, we'll say, our credit union's digital safety deposit box, it is a member self-custody solution, so they're taking ownership of that actual asset. The only other way for a consumer to truly own their Bitcoin or cryptocurrency would be cold storage. And a lot of everyday individuals are not using cold storage devices. So this allows them, it's as easy as sending an ACH. You send it from the exchange with a public receiving address. Those assets move on the blockchain, and the private key would come into their digital safety deposit box, allowing them to take self-custody or ownership of those assets.
Representative Bach.
I think I'm done.
And just for clarification, the term that Mr. Larson used, ACA, is automated cash handling. And that's oftentimes used like with employers to bank accounts for employees for payroll, or if you move from one outside account to another outside account, that goes to what's called the ACA exchange, or system. Representative Cha.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Representative Pierre Elkins, for bringing this forward. I think it's a step in the right direction. You're taking the kiosk, you know, I mean, you go to the gas station, there's a kiosk in a corner, you know, in the very dark corner of a gas station versus going into your local credit union. So I think this is a new frontier, but I do think that this bill is going in the right direction, and looking forward to see what else we have. Thanks.
Thank you, Representative Cha. Representative Van Binsbergen. And before you go ahead, Representative Perry, we're going to have you move over one seat. We have got information from IT Media that mic has seen better days and it's not picking up for the general public, so.
You mean I'm not loud enough?
I don't know what the case is, but
Okay.
we need to have you move. Representative Van Binsbergen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a quick question of clarification. So this is for co-ops, not regular banks, that can be involved in this, right? That have these digital lockboxes. And just also one other question is,
Banks and.
Banks and credit unions.
excuse me?
Banks and credit unions.
Okay. And what's kind of a ballpark cost to the consumer? I realize every institution's going to have a different set of rate, but do you have a ballpark idea?
I think that's a Mr. Larson question again.
Mr. Larson, did you understand Representative Van Binsbergen's question? He's questioning what kind of fees or charges a consumer may have or a member, I should say, at the credit union or a customer at a bank may expect to incur by having this digital lockbox and having you participate in holding the assets for folks?
Thank you, Chair. I think it depends on I think it'll depend on the institution. Our cost structure is going to be a percentage based on the average monthly value with a minimum of $5, maximum of $25. The goal here is member service and member participation, but that's our range.
Representative Van Binsbergen. Representative Smith, and then we're going to see if there's anybody from the public that has any other questions for the committee. Representative Smith.
Thank you, Chair Driscoll. I spoke maybe like a little, some concerns about this bill earlier, but I did want to speak in support of it. I do own cryptocurrency, and I think this is a good idea to have some sort of digital lockbox for credit unions. And maybe just like some basic like cryptocurrency stuff I think is important. So the blockchain technology, the basic idea is that there is a public ledger that everyone is available, right? There's a public key that everyone can see. But when you're buying cryptocurrency, you're getting access to a private key. That's what gives you access to the value of that thing in the public ledger. That's the technology that this is a part of. But as one of our testifiers said, when you buy on the exchanges, most of them like Coinbase, you're buying not the private key itself, you're buying access to the private key that you can use for value purchases. But it's always staying within the exchanges. So if those exchanges fail, or you no longer have access, or you're locked out, like happened with Robinhood, or very early on, Mt. Gox, you just lose that asset if those exchanges fail. It's very hard legally to recover any sort of asset. So what the credit unions are saying is you can take that private key and then just put it in a credit union, not like selling it to the credit union to get the money, but the private key is there. So I do think it provides some protection there, and while I'm concerned of maybe some exchange creep, so to speak, that we might be concerned about, I do think this is a good bill, and I think it's a good service that credit unions can offer Minnesotans.
Representative Smith, before I go to public testimony, and this is a serious question. You said you own crypto. Did you use a kiosk to buy it? And I don't mean that to be, and I absolutely don't mean that to be hilarious because you're talking about it. I'm just wondering, because I'm not in that world, and
I did not. I don't mind saying. I used the exchange Coinbase, which I think is
Okay.
the most popular one in North America.
Okay, thank you. Just like I said, just out of curiosity, since we're kind of tying a number of things together here this morning.
I actually, Chair,
Yes.
after we had the hearing on Tuesday, I kind of made a mental note to maybe like try one of those. I haven't yet, but just to see what the experience is like. But I have not yet, so I'll report back to you.
Yes, I was going to say, we'll check with Chair Kegel, and as soon as you tell her, then you can tell everybody what's happened here. So that's a serious question. I'm just curious, and if you're, as you can see, not a lot of us are venturing into that, and it could be because of well, I won't get into that, maybe many different things, but is there any member of the public who wishes to testify on the matter before the committee? House File 3709. Anyone wishing to testify on 3709? Seeing none, hearing none. Any other member questions this morning? Seeing none, we'll toss it to our co-authors, Representatives Perryman and Representative, Representative Cagle. Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I just want to thank the authors. I do think this is a good idea. I'm coming at it as a way of actually maybe getting people into more traditional products. And so if they are unbanked and crypto is kind of their first forte into walking into a credit union or a bank, I think that's an opportunity for the bank staff or credit union staff to educate those folks on more traditional products and get them into a more banked situation. I used to work at a nonprofit that administered FAME programs, and so I know how important, kind of building those, that credit and account history is. And so I'm hoping that, it's a way to get people in there. And my brilliant LA, who has been working on this issue, Alex Wheeler over here, texted me and said maybe we could add a disclosure to some of these crypto transactions, just saying like this transaction may be irreversible, so people kind of, think before they purchase these things. So it's a new world we're working in right now, and so all the ideas are ones that we really kind of have to chew on here. So thank you very much.
And then with that, we'll go to our bill authors and our co-vice chairs, which someone texted me and said that if you have co-vice chairs presenting, are they also known as the vice squad? I don't know. I'm just asking. Representative Perryman.
Thank you, Chair O'Driscoll, Chair Cagle, and members. Really appreciate it. That vice squad comment I had in my mind, but I was going to use it on the next bill, but you stole my thunder. I just want to thank you for your attention, and you can see this is a continuing journey. We're bringing it up again and again, so this is really consumer protection, and it's keeping people safe with their investments and assets in banking and in the credit union. And I really, truly appreciate the level of protection this bill can bring to customers who choose to get into the cryptocurrency. And I also want to thank my co-author here, Representative Elkins. We do fist bumps really well, don't we? So thank you, and I'll let you have the final words, sir.
Now,
Representative Elkins.
Mr. Chair, I want to thank Representative Smith for his illuminating questions. So he probably knows more from a firsthand perspective about this than anybody else in the room. But no, this is definitely a small step in the right direction and a very positive alternative to using the kiosk in my local Haskins liquor store. So yeah, this is a good bill.
Thank you. And with that, I renew the motion that House File 3709 be moved to the general register. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? The motion prevails, and it is on its way.